The rematch between Argentina and New Zealand taking place this weekend, the second round of the Rugby Championship, and this one's very intriguing. New Zealand, they got themselves a bonus point from test match number 1. Argentina did push them at times, and with a couple adjustments here from both sides, just makes you wonder what the score could look like at the end of the 80 minutes. But in this preview, we'll be looking through at the lineups in terms of what has changed compared to match number 1, the key players to keep an eye out for, and then also some stats from the last game and a prediction at the end for I think will win this match. But jumping straight into it, we will start with the away side, the All Blacks. In their starting lineup, they have made a few changes compared to what we saw for test match number 1. The front row, though, it is identical with Ethan de Groot number 1, Cody Taylor number 2, and Fletcher Null slotting in as the number 3. Now, this will be Cody Taylor's 100th game for the All Blacks, so they've decided to give it to him here rather than waiting until Eden Park. But overall, a very strong front row for New Zealand. We did see the lineouts last week, 100% accuracy, 15 from 15. It put them at the top of the competition for that statistic, and that is exactly where they'd like to stay at the end of this round. Scott Barrett and Fabian Holland, they will be the locking duo. Barrett will be the captain, and Holland will be once again a standout from the way that he's been playing so far in that All Blacks kit. He has been incredibly impressive, wins his lineouts, dominant tackles thick and fast all throughout the matches. And with 5 dominant tackles combined for him and Barrett in match number 1, we can anticipate seeing about the same for the second test as well. In the loose forward trio, this is where we don't see the same as what we saw for test match number 1 in the All Blacks lineup. Number 6, Tupavai, he will remain as the blindside flanker. Number 7, Ardie Savia. Now, he did play number 8 in last week's contest. He had a lot of running meters, scored himself a try, was working extremely hard throughout the matchup in that 8 jersey, but now goes back to 7, where a lot of people do want to see him. And number 8, it is a debutant for the AB's pack. It will be Simon Parker, the Chiefs and Northland representative. He's got plenty of size about him, physicality. He's been considered as Liam Squire 2.0. We'll have to wait and see whether he can live up to those expectations. It's a pretty big amount of pressure on a young player, but Parker seems to handle it throughout Super Rugby. Let's see if he can handle it for the Rugby Championship. In the 19 combination, it will once again be Cortez Ratama and Beauden Barrett, so no changes there for Scott Robertson, and that same sentence can be said across this whole All Blacks backline. In the midfield, it is Geordie Barrett and Billy Proctor. Geordie having a lot of tackles throughout the match. Billy Proctor still trying to find his feet, but for some reason I have a feeling like this game here, he's going to do very well. Of course, we will get on to the key players later on, but he's got a bit of pressure on him. I do feel like maybe that's when we're going to see him really shine in this contest. Rieko Ioane out on the left wing, didn't have his best performance up against Argentina last week. Few handling errors here and there, but he still has express pace down the wing. He will be going head-to-head with Batista Del Guy for this match. They have actually made a change in the wing department for Argentina, which does bring Del Guy marking with Ioane here. So I am intrigued to see how that head-to-head goes. Severis, after 2 tries last week, gets himself that 14 jersey yet again, and then number 15, it is going to be Will Jordan. He didn't score a try, but he did set up Cortez Ratama's try. And I'm sure if he plays like he did in the first match in terms of defenders beaten and clean breaks, probably score himself a try in this game. Instead, off the bench, it is Samisoni Taukei'aho, Tamaiti Williams returning from his injury, and number 18, Pasilio Tosi. A lot of power up front for the All Blacks here, and perhaps, depending on how Williams goes, this could be what we see up against South Africa. Josh Lord slots in as the number 19. That is due to the injury of Patrick Tuipulotu, with number 20 being the injury return of Wallace Satiti. Can slot in anywhere in that loose forward trio, and I'm intrigued to see how many minutes Scott Robertson will give him here with the rest of the matches just around the corner. Number 21, again, they are sticking with Finlay Christie. I thought maybe we would see Preston get the chance here, but Christie has that extra experience. And obviously with those matches up against South Africa just around the corner, Razor doesn't feel there's enough time to be able to get Preston up and running for those games. Number 22, Quinn Tupai, and then number 23, it is Damian McKenzie. So that is the starting lineup for the All Blacks. A few changes, but only the one in the starting lineup, with Parker coming in for Duplessis Karefi, and that little bit of a reshuffle too. But looking through at this Argentine side, it will be Mako Vivas in the front row alongside Julio Montoya as the number 2. He is also the captain for this Argentine team. Number 3, Pedro Delgado. Now, we did see a yellow card for the front row of Argentina in the last match. They will want to try and avoid that. Definitely for little penalties that can be avoided. Discipline will be key heading into this matchup. In the locking duo, once again, it will be Franco Molina at 4 and Pedro Rubiolo slotting in at 5. Pablo Matera, the vice-captain, at 6. He had a busy game last week up against New Zealand. Juan Martin Gonzalez, he makes his way into the starting side, so he's actually switched with Marcos Crema, who will make his way off the bench for this game. And Joaquin Oviedo once again keeps that spot at 8. Scored himself that nice try off the back of the scrum where there was an absolutely huge gap in the All Blacks defence. He's a dangerous ball runner. He actually had 4 clean breaks last year. So be sure to keep an eye out for him if any space does open up. For the backline, it will be Gonzalo Garcia once again starting at 9 with Thomas Albanoz as the 10. Mateo Carreras, he comes back into the side. Now, this is a massive change for the Argentines. Last year, he was doing brilliantly when it came to the meters made, defenders beaten, tries scored. He was dangerous for Argentina. So Severis going head-to-head with him here. That is going to be a must-see battle between those two players. I look forward to seeing what Carreras can do. And this matchup, Santiago Chocobarez will keep the spot at 12 with Lucio Cinti slotting in at 13. Batista Delgui, like I mentioned, out on the right wing for this match. And then Juan Cruz Malia slots in at number 15. So that is the starting side for Argentina. Not a huge amount of changes, just like the All Blacks when it comes to that starting side. Ignacio Ruiz as the number 16. Nahul Tita Chaparro as the 17. And then Joel Scalavi slotting in as the number 18. Guido Petti and Marcos Crema, the other two forward replacements, both very handy for later on in a game. Simon Benitez Cruz at 21. Santiago Carreras 22. And then Justo Picaro as the number 23. So Argentina obviously feel like they pretty much got the combination right for that first test match, and now it's just about fine-tuning it, see whether or not they can win a couple more of those little moments that can turn into a big success for the Pumas if they do get it right. But for New Zealand, the key players, I have to say Cody Taylor. It's his 100th game. He had accurate lineouts last week. Like I said, sitting at 100%. So if they can back that up again, perhaps get a couple steals of the Argentine lineout, New Zealand should have no trouble being able to dominate possession in this contest. Now, dominates may be a bit of a strong word for it. Of course, we saw Argentina fighting nicely throughout that first test match, although there were times where they did struggle to get their hands on the ball, and I do think that was because New Zealand were limiting the errors throughout those periods of time. I'm going to go with Fabian Holland as another man keep an eye out for, of course, with his line-out ability as well as those dominant tackles. We can see that ball dislodged in a few of the hits, maybe a counter-attack for the Kiwis too. And then I'm going to go with a third forward for New Zealand, as I do feel like Argentina are known for that physicality up front. And if New Zealand can match that, they can find a lot more success throughout this game. But Ardie Savia in that number 7 jersey, I feel like New Zealand now have plenty of options at 8, where they don't really need Ardie Savia to keep on playing that role. They've got Parker, they've got Peter Lakai, who can play 8 as well. Wallace Satiti returning from his injury. So Savia, this is his chance to grab that number 7 jersey, and he doesn't really have to have a crazy game at all to keep that 7 jersey heading forward, but it would be great to see him have a solid performance here before heading into the rest of the Rugby Championship. For the Argentines, in terms of key players, I believe Pablo Matera, definitely one to keep an eye on. His physicality last week was shown off. He puts in the big hits, does do a lot of work in the breakdowns as well, which I do think is crucial for Argentina if they want to keep that position for that little bit longer. Alongside him in the loose forward trio, Juan Martin Gonzalez and also Joaquin Oviedo. That's actually the trio that some wanted to see last week, rather than having Marcos Crema in that 7 jersey. But it's a little bit surprising that Crema doesn't get a look in at lock anymore. Same with Guido Petti, but obviously that is because they want that strong finish to the contest. So Argentina, they play pretty well between that 40 and 60 mark. So if they can extend that from 40 to 80 and then also have a solid first half too, it'd be very hard to beat. For this matchup, another player to watch out for, Mateo Carreras, for his attacking ability alone. He is one of those players that when he's on form, He's incredibly hard to stop. Now, he maybe didn't have his biggest series up against the English, but there's no denying in a game like this, where Argentina have lost the first and really need the second to finish high on the Rugby Championship standings, Mateo Carreras, that might be just the pressure that he needs to be able to step up to the next level. And then the last man to keep an eye out for Argentina has to be Thomas Albanoz. The way that he was going last week, a lot of people were saying that he was their first five of the round. Now, of course, James O'Connor also got a lot of praise in that jersey, but Albanoz, there were times where he was just keeping this Argentine side alive with his ball distribution and his vision. Also, the fact that he was not afraid to run that ball when needed. He will be a player that New Zealand have to keep a close eye on throughout this matchup as well. But we move on to a few of the interesting stats from last week. I've already mentioned the lineouts enough. The fact that New Zealand did have themselves a lot of success in that department, but they also had a lot of success with turnovers. In that game last week, they were able to get themselves 7 turnovers won compared to Argentina's 2. Now, when you look through at that Argentine loose forward trio, Pablo Matera, Juan Matan Gonzalez off the bench in that case, Marcos Crema, Joaquin Oviedo, you'd expect a couple more than 2. And I do think there were times that if Argentina had changed the momentum of the game just a little bit, New Zealand could have found themselves in quite a bit of trouble. Now, New Zealand's discipline, once again, maybe let them down a little bit, which is something that throughout July, New Zealand did pretty well, but 12 penalties against them, including 2 yellow cards. Now, Argentina, they were not penalty-free either. They also conceded the 12 penalties with the 1 yellow card for them. So I do think that both of these sides, heading into the second match, if they can sort out the discipline, this one could be a lot closer, and depending on who adjusts better in this game, you know, that could make a big difference. There were a few handling errors across the board, but that's always expected for a first game of a rugby championship. But honestly, throughout that match, a lot of statistics, actually pretty even. 50-50 possession, although New Zealand did have 78% of that possession throughout the last 10 minutes. The scrums, 86% for Argentina compared to the 80% of New Zealand. Post-carry meters, only about 20 difference in favour of Argentina, although they did have an extra 28 carries throughout the game. But something that I noticed straight from the get-go in that last contest that I quickly want to brush upon is the kickoffs. New Zealand looking like they had a lot more intent each and every time that ball was kicked off. Geordie Barrett, I thought, did extremely well with trying to slap that ball back and get it back in the hands of New Zealand. That's something that Argentina will have to try and shut down in this game. And if New Zealand can get the weight of a couple of those kickoffs right with Geordie Barrett slapping them back, that is straight away another attacking opportunity for this New Zealand side. They managed to bring up 41 points with a bonus point intact for match number 1. Argentina getting themselves 24 throughout that fixture too, so it could be a high-scoring game here in Buenos Aires, but that brings us on to the prediction, and honestly, this one's a pretty tough one to know what to expect, because New Zealand, with such a similar side, you'd expect a bit of the same, but also maybe a few improvements from what we saw in match number 1, similar to what we saw with that first match up against the French compared to the second. With Argentina, they are about as unpredictable as they come, so they could do anything here. They could be well and truly up for this challenge, or they may be a little bit flat. I'm hoping it's the first one. So score prediction for this game, like I said, I think it's going to be high scoring. So I am going to go New Zealand 38 to Argentina's 31. I think I'll go with. I think that Argentina will be right in this. Maybe that's more so a heart prediction than a head. If New Zealand fire well, there is a chance that we could see it be very similar to last week, maybe about a 42-15, but I just like this Argentinian side, and I do feel like they've got a bit about them, definitely with the lineup that they've selected here. So I will go with that original prediction of 38-31 for this contest. But nonetheless, I do thank you all very much for tuning in. Of course, do let me know your score predictions in the comments down below. We will be doing the live commentary for this matchup. It is kicking off at 9:10 a.m. New Zealand time on Sunday morning. So be sure to check that out if you did enjoy. Be sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel, and I will see you all for the next one.